Hey everyone, quick thing before we dive in. I was looking at my analytics and it turns out most of the people watching aren't actually subscribed. See this? Way more views than subscribers. If you're enjoying the videos and want to see more, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and you'll never miss new uploads. Alright, let's get into it.
My designation is TK-421, Senior Mechanic, 3rd Construction Division of the Imperial Death Star Project. By the time you read this report, if anyone ever reads it, I'll likely be dead, or worse. But the record must be preserved. Someone needs to know what we sacrificed to complete the Emperor's ultimate weapon. I've been doing this work for 15 years now, moving from set to set, human to human, ensuring their LEGO constructions meet our exacting standards. After each project's completion, we return to the factory for reassignment. It's a good system, reliable. I've overseen everything from modest starfighters to elaborate castle fortifications. 27 successful builds without incident. This Death Star is number 28. The morning inspection should have been routine. At 0600 hours, I descended from my quarters in the command tower to conduct our nightly inventory check. 78.3% complete. The human had made excellent progress, following our subtle guidance through 3 months of construction. Every night, we emerged from our hiding places to correct his mistakes, reinforce weak joints, and ensure the structural integrity that would make this Death Star fully operational. But as I conducted the piece inventory for the upcoming construction phases, my worst fears materialized. The final capstone brick, a specialized 2x2 slope piece in Imperial Gray, essential for the super laser focusing lens assembly, was missing from our organized stockpile. The human would reach the super laser housing within 2 building sessions. Without that piece, the project would be scrapped as incomplete, and Lord Vader had made it abundantly clear: the Death Star must be completed. His plans for world conquest depended on it. Failure was not an option he would tolerate. TK-332, report to super laser housing immediately, I barked into my microcom. Within minutes, my team assembled TK-332, our veteran engineer with 15 years of LEGO construction experience. TK-098, solid and dependable. TK-157, fresh from the academy but eager. And TK-890, the rookie who'd only been activated 3 months ago when the human opened our packaging. Sir, I've checked the security footage from our surveillance network, TK-332 reported, his scarred face grim. The tiny cameras we'd installed throughout the model were crude but functional. The human's dog infiltrated the work area at 0300 hours. Subject carried away the capstone brick in its mouth. My plastic joints creaked as I absorbed this information. The dog, that massive slobbering beast we'd observed from the safety of our elevated position, had treated our critical component like a chew toy. Tracking data shows the brick was dropped in the outer territories, TK-098 added, consulting his handheld scanner. Approximately 847 minifigure length southwest, past the Great Carpet Forest downstairs. 847 lengths. In our scale, that might as well have been a different city. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the model as Darth Vader's personal transport platform descended from the throne room. Even at our microscopic scale, his presence filled the chamber with dread. The LED system in his chest panel cast ominous shadows across the command tower corridors. "Commander TK-421, Vader's mechanized voice boomed, each word vibrating through the plastic superstructure. "Explain this, incompetence." "My lord, the dog, I care nothing for your excuses." Vader's lightsaber ignited with a low hum, the fiber optic blade glowing with deadly intensity. He held it before him, the crimson light reflecting off the plastic corridors around us. A demonstration of power, not destruction. He would never damage the Death Star. He needed it intact. The Death Star will be completed, or you will face the consequences of failure. He leaned closer, his mask reflecting our tiny forms. "Do you understand what is at stake here, Commander? This is not merely a model. Once complete, this Death Star will become our bridgehead to conquer this world. The Empire will extend its reach beyond our realm, into the human domain itself. but only if the station is fully operational. The lightsaber hummed closer to my head, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from the blade. You have 48 human hours to retrieve the capstone brick and complete the assembly. The human will be finished building in 2 days, if he discovers this flaw. The blade hovered inches from my face. If the project is scrapped due to your negligence, I will ensure your deaths are neither quick nor merciful. Vader's mask turned slowly, surveying my assembled team. His breathing filled the silence, mechanical, rhythmic, menacing. For your failure to protect our inventory, one of you must die. But where is the lesson in a quick execution? The lightsaber hummed as he gestured at us. No, I will hunt you during your mission. Somewhere along your journey, one of you will fall to my blade. You won't know who. You won't know when. This uncertainty will teach you the cost of failure. He straightened, his cape billowing in the ventilation current. The rest of you who survive and complete the mission will be rewarded. But one of you will provide entertainment as you are hunted like prey. The platform lifted away, leaving us alone with our impossible task. 48 human hours, roughly a full year in our accelerated time frame, to cross nearly 1,000 body lengths of hostile territory, locate a single brick, and return before the humans' next building session, with Vader somewhere behind us, hunting. Sir, TK-890 ventured, his voice barely above a whisper. How are we supposed to... We get down there, I cut him off, moving toward the table's edge. Everyone, gather climbing gear and emergency rations. TK-332, prep the rappelling system. I looked at my team, the 5 figures who would accompany me on this mission. TK-332, our veteran engineer with the scarred face and 15 years of experience. TK-098, solid and dependable as always. TK-157, the Academy rookie whose eagerness would be tested. TK-264, our quiet structural specialist who rarely spoke but never failed. And TK-890, activated just 3 months ago and already facing a nightmare mission. 6 of us total, and according to Vader, only 5 would return. Equipment check, I ordered, pushing the thought aside. Each figure carried microscopic climbing gear we'd fabricated from paper clips and thread, plus emergency food pellets made from crumbs we'd collected during construction. Our joints were already showing stress fractures from months of building work, but we had no choice. We go now, while he's in the kitchen for lunch. Minimum movement up here for the next hour. TK-332 secured the rappelling anchor around the lamp base, while TK-157 tested the cord's stability. It's holding, sir, but it shifts with any vibration. We move fast and careful. Let's go. One by one, we began our descent. The scale was overwhelming. Every inch felt like falling through empty sky. Dust motes drifted past us like asteroids, and the distant sound of the humans' movements downstairs in the kitchen created a constant, threatening rumble. We were halfway down when disaster struck. The cord lurched suddenly as the human moved below, perhaps closing a cabinet or shifting his weight. The vibration traveling up through the house's structure and into the cord. TK-157 lost his grip, his rookie hands not yet calloused enough for this kind of work. TK-157, I shouted, but physics had already claimed him. He hit the floor of the upstairs workroom 3.2 feet below with a sickening crack, his left leg joint fractured completely, bright plastic fragments scattering across the hardwood. His torso showed hairline cracks, but he was alive, barely. Leave me, he gasped as we reached the floor. Mission takes priority. We're not leaving anyone, TK-098 said firmly, but I grabbed his arm. He's right. TK-157, find cover under the desk. Stay hidden until we return. I pressed an emergency beacon into his cracked hand. Signal if you need immediate extraction. Yes, sir. His voice was already fading as shock set in. The remaining 5 of us regrouped at the doorway. Beyond it, the upstairs hallway stretched like a canyon, and at its end, the staircase descended into darkness. Stay in formation, I ordered. Watch for vibrations. If the human starts coming up those stairs, we find cover immediately. We moved quickly across the hallway's hardwood surface, our plastic feet clicking softly with each step. The journey to the staircase took nearly 20 minutes. The hallway was perhaps 10 feet in human scale, but to us it was an endless expanse. When we reached the top of the stairs, we all paused. Each step was a cliff face descending into shadow. 13 steps total, I counted them from our vantage point. Each one a vertical drop that could shatter our already stressed joints. Carpet runners covered the wood, providing texture for climbing, but also treacherous, shifting footing. The fibers were worn and frayed in places, creating unstable zones where a misstep could send us tumbling. Below, we could hear the distant sounds of the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator, the occasional creak of floorboards as the human moved about. "This is going to take time," TK332 observed grimly, his single arm already gripping the first carpet fiber for stability test. "These fibers are old. Half of them pull free when you put weight on them." "Estimate?" I asked. He was silent for a moment, calculating. "At least 18 hours, maybe a full day if we hit complications." A full day. That would eat up half our deadline just getting downstairs. "We don't have a choice," I said. TK264, you lead. Test every handhold. TK098, you bring up the rear. Nobody takes risks. We can't afford another casualty. The first 6 hours were grueling but manageable. We climbed down face first, gripping the carpet fibers with both hands and feet, moving in careful coordination. Each step required multiple rappels, down the vertical face, across the horizontal tread, then down the next vertical face. The repetitive motion stressed our joints further, and I could feel new cracks spreading across my shoulder assembly. TK890, despite being our newest member, proved surprisingly capable. His joints were fresh, not yet worn down by years of construction work, and he moved with careful precision. Around hour 7, we heard it, the heavy footsteps ascending from below. "Freeze!" I hissed. The human was coming upstairs. We pressed ourselves flat against the carpet fibers, becoming motionless plastic toys among the textured surface. Our survival depended on absolute stillness. Thoom, thoom, thoom. Each footstep sent vibrations through the stairs that threatened to shake us loose. The human's shadow fell across us as he climbed past, so close I could have reached out and touched his shoe. He was carrying something. I caught a glimpse of his phone screen, bright and overwhelming in the dim stairwell. He passed without noticing us. The door to the workroom opened and closed above. "He's going back to building," TK098 whispered once the coast was clear. My plastic heart sank. If the human was building now, he'd notice the missing piece soon. We had even less time than we thought. We pushed on, climbing down through hours 8, 9, and 10. My joints were screaming, and TK332's improvised shoulder stump was starting to show stress fractures around the sealed edge. But we made steady progress. Until hour 12. We'd reached the 7th step, roughly halfway down, when TK264 discovered the crack. It was a gap between the carpet runner and the wooden step edge, where years of foot traffic had loosened the carpet tacks. The gap was perhaps a 1/4 inch wide in human scale. To us, it was a crevasse that dropped into absolute darkness beneath the stairs. "Going around?" TK264 called back, shifting his route to avoid the unstable zone. But the carpet fiber he grabbed pulled free. TK264 didn't scream. He was too professional for that. He simply fell, his body tumbling sideways into the crack before any of us could react. We heard him hit something below, then silence. TK264! TK098 scrambled toward the gap. TK264, respond! A weak voice echoed up from the darkness. "I'm alive, but can't climb." I looked at the crack, then at my remaining team. 4 of us now, with one trapped in an inaccessible crevasse beneath the stairs. "We're coming to get you," I called down. "Hold on." "Sir," TK332 said quietly, "the mission, we're not leaving him." The rescue took 4 precious hours. We had to descend to the bottom of the stairs, then navigate underneath into the dark, debris-filled space beneath the staircase. It was a nightmare landscape of dust bunnies the size of boulders, lost screws and nails that loomed like fallen trees, and spider webs that stretched between the support beams like massive nets. We found TK264 at the very back corner, partially buried in a massive dust bunny that had broken his fall. The accumulated lint and hair had saved his life. Without it, the fall would have shattered him completely. His face bore stress cracks, and one arm hung limp. Lucky, landing, he managed weakly. Thought I was done for. We fashioned an arm splint from a lost toothpick fragment. By the time we'd reached the bottom step and set him down in a safe position near the wall baseboard, 16 hours had elapsed since we'd started the descent. 16 hours gone, 32 remaining, and we'd only made it downstairs. As we prepared to move toward the living room and the carpet forest beyond, a scraping sound echoed from the darkness under the stairs. "What was that?" TK-890 whispered. The sound came again, a chittering, scratching noise that set my plastic nerves on edge. Then we saw it. 2 antennae emerged from the shadows, each one longer than our entire bodies. They were followed by a dark, segmented head with compound eyes that reflected our tiny forms in hundreds of faceted mirrors. A cockroach, easily 50 times our size, its body armored in brown chitin plates that looked harder than our plastic shells. It had been disturbed by our rescue operation, and now it was investigating the disturbance. "Nobody move," I breathed, but TK-890 panicked, broke formation, and ran. The roach's head snapped toward the movement with predatory speed. In our world, roaches were apex predators, fast, aggressive, and nearly indestructible. It charged. "Scatter!" I shouted. We broke in different directions as the roach pursued TK-890 across the baseboard. Its legs moved with horrifying speed, each step a blur of motion. TK-890 was fast, but the roach was faster. "Over here!" TK-332 yelled, waving his remaining arm to draw the creature's attention. It worked. The roach pivoted, its antennae locking onto TK-332's movement. But TK-332 was ready. He'd positioned himself near a baseboard gap. As the roach lunged, he dove through the opening, and the creature's head slammed into the wood with a thunderous impact. Stunned, the roach backed away, shaking its head. Then, apparently deciding we weren't worth the effort, it retreated back into the darkness under the stairs. We regrouped, our frames trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. "Everyone intact?" I asked. Nods all around, though TK-890 looked shaken. 16 hours down, 32 to go, TK-098 said. "We need to move faster." I looked toward the living room, where the edge of the carpet forest was just visible in the dim light filtering from the kitchen. "Then let's move. We've already lost too much time." Above us, we could hear the human moving in his workroom, building, getting closer to the section where our missing piece would be discovered. The clock was ticking. "Move out," I ordered. "Stay together, watch for paw prints, and remember, Vader's already tracking us." As if summoned by my words, a red glow appeared in the distance above us, cutting through the darkness. Vader had begun his hunt. We pushed forward into the carpet forest, just as the first rays of sunlight began filtering through the living room windows. Day 2 of our mission had begun. The mission clock was ticking, and somewhere in this vast, hostile territory, our salvation waited in the form of a single gray brick. Navigation through the carpet forest proved more treacherous than our worst-case scenarios had predicted. Each synthetic fiber stood roughly twice our height, creating a maze of amber-colored pillars that blocked visibility beyond 3 body lengths. The carpet's weave forced us to climb constantly, up and over the fiber intersections, down into the valleys between rows, always fighting the springy resistance that threatened to launch us backward with each step. "Bearing southwest, Mark 27, TK-332 called out, consulting the magnetic compass we'd fashioned from a paperclip and lodestone. His scarred face was already showing strain lines from the constant climbing. Distance covered, 37 lengths, remaining 810. The numbers hit like physical blows. At this pace, we'd never make it within the deadline. "Joint stress accumulating," TK-098 reported, pausing to examine his left shoulder assembly. Visual fracture lines developing in the connection socket. I checked my own condition. Already hairline cracks were spreading across my torso from the repetitive climbing motion. The plastic was showing stress whitening, where the material had been pushed beyond its elastic limit. We'd need to pace ourselves, but time was our enemy. The paw print was a crater in our world, a depression in the carpet pile where 60 pounds of canine weight had compressed the fibers into a bowl-shaped valley. The print was relatively fresh, maybe 6 hours old in human time. Dried saliva formed crystalline formations around the edges, like stalactites in some hellish cave. We follow the trail, I decided. The dog carried our brick along this path. Stay in formation, watch for... A red glow pulsed behind us, perhaps 50 body lengths back. Vader's lightsaber cut through the synthetic forest like a beacon of death, leaving molten fiber stumps in his wake. Even at this distance, I could hear the mechanical rhythm of his breathing. "He's gaining," TK-332 observed with professional calm. Then we moved faster. Emergency pace, ignore joint preservation and protocols. We pushed deeper into the wilderness, following the crater trail left by massive paw prints. The dog's scent was overwhelming at this level, a mixture of fur oil, dried food particles, and that distinctive canine musk that seemed to cling to everything. My respiratory vents were starting to clog with the microscopic debris. The terrain grew more challenging as we progressed. Pet hair formed massive tangles between the carpet fibers, hairy barriers we had to tunnel through or climb over. Each strand was thick as a rope to us, coated in natural oils that made gripping treacherous. "Contact ahead!" TK-098 called out. We'd reached the edge of the carpet forest. Beyond the last row of synthetic trees, a vast expanse of hardwood flooring stretched toward the distant kitchen. The wooden planks looked like a highway system from our perspective, each board gap a dangerous crevasse that could trap or crush us. "Movement!" TK-890 pointed toward the kitchen. The human was walking across the hardwood, each footstep creating a localized earthquake. The vibrations traveled through the floor like shock waves, rattling our tiny frames and threatening to knock us off balance. We dove for cover in a carpet depression and waited. Thoom, thoom, thoom. Each step felt like artillery fire. Dust particles, enormous to us, cascaded from the ceiling with every impact. A coffee mug being set down on the distant counter created a thunderclap that made our ears ring. "He's heading upstairs," TK-332 reported after the vibration subsided. "Window of opportunity." We broke cover and sprinted across the hardwood, our plastic feet clicking against the polyurethane finish. The board gaps were manageable if we jumped carefully, but one mistake would send us plummeting into the subflooring darkness. Halfway across the open ground, TK-332 stumbled. His left arm, already weakened from weeks of construction work, finally gave way. The shoulder joint separated completely, leaving his hand and forearm dangling by a thin strip of plastic. He bit back a cry of pain as colored plastic fragments scattered across the hardwood. "Field amputation required," he said through gritted teeth. "TK-098, your knife." "Are you sure?" "Do it." TK-098's utility blade was sharp enough. One clean cut severed the damaged limb, leaving TK-332 with a stump that he quickly sealed with emergency plastic cement from his toolkit. The procedure was crude but functional. "Can you continue the mission?" I asked. "One armed and ready, sir." We pressed on, leaving the severed limb behind like a marker of our passage. The red glow was still visible behind us, but farther back now. Vader was taking his time, enjoying the hunt. But somewhere ahead lay our objective, the capstone brick that would complete the Death Star and ensure our survival, assuming we lived long enough to find it. "Target acquired," TK-098 whispered, pointing toward the table's far corner. There, nestled against the table leg like a gray boulder, was our objective. The final capstone brick gleamed in the filtered sunlight from the kitchen window, tantalizingly close, yet impossibly distant. "Water hazard, dead ahead," TK-332 warned. We encountered the dog's water bowl as a massive steel wall that curved upward beyond our line of sight. The metal was cold to the touch, and we could hear the occasional ripple of liquid far above, water sloshing in what must be an enormous container. The base was treacherous. Dried slobber had pooled and hardened around the bottom edge, creating a sticky, uneven terrain that grabbed at our feet. The substance had a caustic quality. I could see where it had begun to etch the finish on TK-098's foot after just seconds of contact. "Go around," I ordered. Don't touch the residue if you can avoid it. We skirted the bowl's perimeter, staying close to avoid getting lost, but far enough to avoid the contaminated zone. The steel reflected distorted shadows. We were too close and too small to see our own reflections clearly, just dark shapes moving across a metallic surface. That's when TK-332's damaged arm finally betrayed him completely. The emergency cement had held during our sprint across the hardwood, but the constant strain of our journey had stressed the repair beyond its limits. As TK-332 steadied himself against the bowl's base to navigate around a particularly thick patch of dried slobber, the entire stump assembly separated from his shoulder with a wet cracking sound. "Damn," he muttered, watching his remaining hand clatter across the floor. "That's inconvenient. Can you continue? What choice do I have? The mission." A low rumble interrupted him. The sound was familiar, yet wrong, too close, too immediate. We froze, scanning the shadows beneath the dining table. Yellow eyes, each the size of headlights, blinked open in the darkness. The dog had been sleeping beneath the table, invisible to our reconnaissance. Now it was awake, drawn by our movement and the scent of TK-332's damaged plastic. "Nobody move," I whispered. "Maybe it won't." The massive head emerged from the shadows like a building coming to life. Black nose the size of a car tire, jaws that could crush our entire team without effort, breath that hit us like a hurricane of warm, moist air carrying the scent of kibble and decay. We were insects to this creature, less than insects. We were toys. The dog's head tilted with curiosity, studying us with the innocent fascination of a predator encountering new prey. A tongue the size of a carpet unrolled from its mouth, dripping saliva that hit the floor around us like acid rain. "Run," I breathed. We scattered. TK-09, 8 Dove, left toward the table leg, while TK-890 and I broke right toward our objective. TK-332, handicapped by his missing arm, stumbled and fell directly in the dog's path. The massive paw came down like a building collapse, pinning him against the hardwood. I heard his torso crack under the pressure, saw bright plastic fragments spray across the floor. But the dog wasn't trying to kill him. It was playing. "Help me!" TK-332 gasped. The paw lifted, then came down again with playful force. More cracks appeared in his plastic body as the dog batted him like a toy mouse, each impact driving him further across the floor. His legs were bent at impossible angles, his face cracked from temple to chin. I had to choose, save my teammate or secure the mission objective. The capstone brick was 3 body lengths away. "TK-890, get the brick!" I shouted, then sprinted toward TK-332. But the dog had other ideas. The massive mouth opened, revealing teeth like white tombstones. TK-332 disappeared inside, followed by a wet, crunching sound that would haunt my dreams forever, if I survived to have dreams. When the mouth opened again, what emerged wasn't my teammate anymore. The figure was coated in thick, viscous saliva that was already starting to dissolve his plastic skin. His colors were bleeding, running together in psychedelic streams. His joints were softening, unable to support his weight. "Chemical breakdown?" He wheezed. "Can't stop it." The toxic saliva was eating him alive from the outside in. His legs collapsed, no longer solid enough to bear weight. His arms were starting to dissolve at the fingertips, plastic flesh sloughing off in wet chunks. "TK-421! TK-89!" Zero's voice cracked with terror. He'd reached the capstone brick, but couldn't lift it alone. "I need help!" TK-332 looked up at me with eyes that were already starting to melt. "Go," he whispered. "Complete the mission. I'm not leaving you. You have to." He used his last moments of coherent speech to push something toward me, his emergency beacon. "Tell them I did my duty." The dog's attention shifted to TK-890, who was struggling to move the capstone brick. The massive head swung toward him like a wrecking ball, jaws opening with predatory intent. I grabbed the brick with both hands just as the dog's mouth closed around TK-890's midsection. His scream cut off abruptly as those terrible teeth clamped down, but but he used his last conscious moment to shove the brick toward me. "Run!" he managed to gasp before the pressure crushed his voice box. I ran. The capstone brick was heavier than expected, nearly half my body weight. Carrying it slowed me significantly, but without it, our mission was pointless. "Sir, wait!" TK-264 had caught up to me, limping badly but keeping pace. "I'll help carry it." "You can barely walk." "Then we carry it together, or we don't make it at all." A red glow appeared behind us, cutting through the furniture shadows. Vader had found us. His lightsaber carved through the chair legs with casual ease, creating unstable structures and blocking potential escape routes. The mechanical sound of his breathing filled the room like the rhythm of some infernal machine. "TK-421, his voice boomed. How disappointing. I expected better from my senior mechanic. We dodged behind the table leg as his blade swept through the space we'd occupied. The heat was intense enough to soften the plastic of the capstone brick, warping one corner before I could pull it away. "You were responsible for protecting the inventory," Vader continued, his footsteps drawing closer. "This failure falls on your shoulders, Commander. TK-264, you are dismissed. Leave now, and you will be spared." TK-264 looked at me, then at Vader's approaching red glow. "Go!" I shouted at him. "That's an order." "No, sir." TK-264 stepped in front of me, placing himself between Vader and me. His broken leg was shaking from the strain, but his voice was steady. "The inventory was all our responsibility. If anyone failed, we all did." "Admirable," Vader said, his mask tilting as he studied TK-264. "But pointless." The lightsaber swept forward. TK-264 didn't try to dodge. He pushed me backward with his good arm, sending me stumbling away with the capstone brick clutched against my chest. "Run, sir!" The blade passed through TK-264's torso in a flash of red light and melting plastic. He collapsed in two pieces, his upper body sliding across the hardwood, his face locked in a final expression of duty fulfilled. "No!" I screamed, but my legs were already moving, carrying me away from Vader's advance. Heavy footsteps echoed from the staircase. The human was coming downstairs. Vader's glow disappeared instantly as his survival protocols kicked in. Even he couldn't risk discovery by the human during morning hours. I ran for the distant staircase, my joints screaming in protest. The capstone brick felt impossibly heavy. Each step sent fresh cracks spreading through my torso. Behind me, TK-264's severed body lay motionless near the table leg. I had just reached the bottom of the stairs when I heard the human's footsteps reach the main floor. I froze, pressing myself against the baseboard. The human walked into the living room, coffee mug in hand, scanning the floor with mild interest. His eyes passed over me, just another Lego piece that had fallen somewhere, and then locked onto something else. The capstone brick. It had fallen from my grip when I froze, rolling a few inches away across the hardwood. "Huh," the human muttered, bending down. His massive hand descended like a crane, fingers carefully picking up the small gray brick. How did this get all the way down here? Then he noticed me, a minifigure lying near the stairs, stress cracks visible across my torso. "And this guy too?" He picked me up with his other hand, examining me with concern. "Man, you look rough. Must have fallen off the table." I remained absolutely motionless as he carried both of us, the capstone brick and me, back through the living room, up the stairs, down the hallway, and into his workroom. The Death Star model sat on the table, exactly as we'd left it. The super laser housing gaped with its missing piece clearly visible. "There we go," the human said, setting me down gently on the table surface near the model. Then he examined the capstone brick, turning it over in his fingers. "This is the piece I need for the focusing array. Lucky I found it before the dog completely destroyed it." He leaned over the model, located the exact position where the brick belonged, and with a gentle press and a satisfying click, installed it. The Death Star was complete. "Perfect," he murmured, stepping back to admire his work. "Absolutely perfect." I lay on the table surface, unable to move, watching as the human left the room, presumably to get his phone to take photos of his completed masterpiece. Footsteps behind me. TK-098 and TK-157 emerged from their hiding spots within the model, rushing toward me. Commander! TK-098 knelt beside me. You made it back. I hitched a ride on the hem of the human pants as he walked up the stairs. But where are the others? TK-264. I could barely speak. He saved me. Vader killed him. TK-098's scarred face was grim. TK-890, TK-332, and now TK-264. 3 dead. But the mission is complete, I finished. The human found the brick. Found me. Brought us both back. Vader's platform rose from the floor where he'd been waiting, levitating up toward the table surface with supernatural grace. His cape billowed as he ascended, lightsaber still ignited, his breathing filling the silence with mechanical menace. Into the model! TK-098 hissed urgently. Now! We scrambled into the Death Star's corridors, taking our positions within the structure. Through the transparent sections, I could see Vader land on the table surface, his imposing figure moving toward the throne room with deliberate steps. The human's footsteps echoed from the hallway. Returning, Vader deactivated his lightsaber and moved into position within the throne room, assuming a pose of command. We all froze, becoming motionless plastic once more. The human entered, camera in hand, and spent several minutes photographing his completed masterpiece from every angle. His satisfied smile never wavered as he circled the table, capturing the Death Star's details. "Can't risk this getting damaged," he said finally, setting down his camera. "This is going right up on the display shelf." My plastic blood ran cold. Through my position in the command corridor, I could see Vader in the throne room, still frozen in his commanding pose. The human left again. The moment he was gone, Vader's head turned slightly. Then he threw it back and began to laugh, that terrible mechanical sound of triumph that echoed through the model's corridors. "At last!" his voice boomed. "The Emperor's ultimate weapon is complete. Soon, this world will kneel before the Empire. The Death Star is operational, and nothing can stop us now." His laughter continued, growing louder, more manic. Through the transparent panels, I could see him gesturing grandly, his cape swirling with the movement. "No," I thought. "No, you don't understand what's coming." But I couldn't move, couldn't warn him. None of us could break our cover, not with the human liable to return at any moment. The footsteps came back. Vader, still caught up in his victory, didn't seem to notice or care. His laughter continued as the human re-entered carrying supplies. "Perfect," the human murmured, setting down 2 bottles. Industrial-grade preservation epoxy. 2-part polymer solution. He began mixing the clear liquid, stirring it with methodical care. Vader's laughter rang through the model, audible only to us, as the human prepared our doom. The clear epoxy began flowing from the human's applicator, starting at the base of the model. It spread like liquid glass, filling every detail, every crevice. Vader's laughter faltered as the polymer reached the throne room floor. What is this?" His mechanical voice took on an edge of concern. The epoxy climbed higher, faster than any of us could have moved even if we'd tried. It reached Vader's feet, then his knees. "No!" His voice shifted from triumph to panic. "No! This cannot..." His lightsaber ignited in a desperate attempt to burn through the rising tide, but the polymer was already at his waist, hardening rapidly around the blade's heat. The weapon flickered and died, entombed in clear resin. "The Empire will..." The epoxy reached his chest. His arms, raised in what had been a gesture of triumph, were now frozen in place. "I am Darth Vader. You cannot..." The polymer covered his mask. His screams became muffled, then silent, as the clear resin filled the spaces around him, locking him in his final moment of realization. Around me, the epoxy was rising too. I felt it reach my feet, my legs, my waist, cold and unstoppable. My joints locked in place one by one as the polymer hardened. I tried to move, to do anything, but my body was sealed forever. Only my eyes could still function, trapped behind cracked lenses but still capable of sight. Through the transparent polymer, I could see Vader's frozen form in the throne room. His pose, arms raised, head thrown back, looked triumphant to any observer. But I could see his eyes behind that mask. Not triumph, terror. The realization too late of what had happened to us all. The human lifted the encased model with reverent care, carrying us to a place of honor on his display shelf. Through the thick polymer, I could see his satisfied smile as he positioned us next to his other prized Lego sets. "Most realistic build ever," he said with pride. "That Vader figure looks so lifelike, like he's actually commanding the station. If only he knew. The Death Star stands complete, ready to conquer worlds, and we are its first prisoners. Mission accomplished."